The next exercise that we have to do, which I think could build on this, is how do we ask for the support that we need? And how do we know what support we need when we need it? Yes. So there's one more worksheet to do, and we have called it Ways to Support Me. So what we have in there are 5 statements that we'd love for you to read and then just think about. And they kind of cover a couple of different things. It's things like, when I feel hurt, I would like to be supported by. When I feel like celebrating, I like to. And the reason we went through a variety of emotions as well is this isn't only about just conflict in relationships. It's also about how you like to experience your love list and how you like to have joy, right? So take a couple minutes, answer those as honestly as you feel able to do right now. And then let's talk about this, because this might bring us even closer to how we can take care of me while I'm in a relationship with you. And again, I think as you're filling this out, really think about you, less about your friendships or relationships, but what you know you need when you experience emotions like this. Maybe you might not be getting it, maybe you are getting it, but think a little bit about what would feel good for you in those moments. All right, so I know this was a little meatier workshop, but our worksheet exercise. How is it feeling so far?
Amazing.
Good? Yeah? Making us, I'm loving where the conversation has been going and what we've been talking about. I feel like we could spend probably a lot more time digging into some of those, which we're going to get to Q&A in a second. But let's talk about this worksheet. Do you want to pick one as an example, Iskra, and share?
Yeah. What's interesting is I think because my best friends have become my best friends is because they already do a lot of this instinctively, which is really interesting. Like, my friends would know that if I was hurting, I wouldn't want intrusive questions. I wouldn't want interrogating. I also wouldn't want them to go to that level. I'm not trying to bring them down with me and feel my pain or my sorrow or anything like that. I want them to stay lifted and then lift me back up and take me out, do some fun things, maybe organize something, because if I'm just feeling hurt, maybe I'm just not able to right now. So I feel like that my friends know that that's how I like to be supported.
I think what's really cool about that example, and I know 2 of your besties are in the room, but what I appreciate about that is that we sometimes can learn what we need by how our friends treat us too. Yeah. Like, sometimes we may not know what we need until our friends step in. And then we're like, ooh, that was exactly what I needed, which is probably why we're friends, right? So sometimes that can happen. And then I think we want to do this exercise for moments when that doesn't happen, right? So sometimes we might find like, oh, I really need something, and they're trying really hard, but it's not hitting what you really need. So I'm curious to hear a couple of your examples of maybe pick 1 or 2 that you discovered in doing this worksheet that you'd like to share out. Yeah.
So it's so interesting because I think people are so different, where it's like, if I'm feeling bad, like, I really appreciated if my friends just like let me feel bad, or like give me the space to be sad, rather than immediately trying to make me feel positive about something. Like, just kind of allowing me to be like, no, this is actually kind of difficult. Is an amazing thing that friends can do.
I actually think that's great. I think both of those things are really great, like stepping in and organizing and outing, and also knowing when you've got to back off and let you feel what you're feeling. What else? Yeah.
I kind of interpreted the first question a little differently, where I looked at it as when I feel hurt by a friend. What I like to do is just please acknowledge my feelings. It might be minor to you, but if it hurt me, just acknowledge that and maybe apologize.
Yeah.
I have a friend, well, we're no longer friends, but I had a good friend since being 4 years old now. I'm 24, but I realized that she couldn't really, make that step to, hey, I'm sorry for what I did. So I had to end that friendship, but that's really important to me in any relationship.
That's an incredible piece of self-knowledge to know that that's what you need, and then I'm sure that you also reciprocate that or focus on that in reciprocating. So that's an important value. The number one time we are most disappointed in relationships is when our values are stepped on. But we often even don't share our values even with our friends. We just assume, right? I might have met you in spin class and we get along great and we hang out a bunch, but we've never had a conflict. And then we get into a conflict, and what I've assumed that you need is not what you need. And then, so these are all reparable. Like, this is why, I think this is how we can repair these moments. And sometimes we can't, and sometimes relationships end. But all of that is self-knowledge. That's really important for you too. What else? I'm curious about the question of when I'm feeling rejected. So if you've felt rejected by somebody or something, how have you answered that? You would like your friends to do what?
I said I like my friends to remind me of all the things I can be grateful for. So it ties in with a lot of what we've been talking about, but you know, for me that's like a self-care tool for me that I use. So for my friends to be able to, because there's times when even if you've got your toolkit, even if you're like, I know what I'm doing, it can all fall apart and you can feel that you know, that you're in the darkness searching for something. And so if your friends can be like, hey, remember, this makes you feel good, or this makes you feel, you know, and if you use your gratitude list, you know, and I can help you, here's a few things, that's going to make me feel better if I've been rejected.
I love that. What do I say?
Yeah, sometimes it can be a blessing when something doesn't go how you want it to go, and then it can lead you to something even better. So it's always nice to think that this happens for a reason.
Yeah. I always like to say rejection's God's protection. I think there's lots of things that sometimes move out of your way that you need. What else do you have on your list? Anything surprise you as you were writing this? Like, did you have an experience where you might write something that you need, but then realize that maybe you're not getting it or not getting enough of it? Yeah, I see a little nod. Would you mind sharing?
Just like looking at these like prompts and just like thinking, oh, how my friends or like old friends would handle it, and just seeing how they like wouldn't handle it how I wanted it to. Like I wanted to feel like validated and supported, and they would just try and be like, you're being dramatic, and like that's not what I needed in the moment.
Yes. That awareness is really key. I think knowing what you want is important. I think knowing what you don't want is really important too. I know when I am feeling down, there's two ways that I like it. So sometimes these prompts are challenging for me because it might change, right? If I'm feeling down or hurt or depressed or sad, I either would like to be just in my feeling, because I believe that emotion, I write it as like E and then motion, because it's energy in motion. It moves through your body. I don't believe the feelings that we feel will stay forever. And I've learned to teach myself that, so that if I'm feeling sad, it just means I'm feeling sad. It doesn't mean it needs to last for my lifetime, right? And so I like to feel what I'm feeling because I learn from what I'm feeling. And when I've had friends, and this is part of my challenges with friendships in the past, sometimes I've had friends who cannot sit with their feelings. It makes them very uncomfortable. They want to fix me, fix it, make it better, make it go away. No more, I don't want any of the less than shiny stuff. And not only am I a Scorpio and I'm like deep by nature, but I really appreciate intimate conversations. And so the other flip side of it is sometimes I'll want to feel it, and sometimes I'll really want to talk about it. So I tend to attract friends, okay, where we can have conversation. I need that. So sometimes the silence is not what I need. Sometimes I want us to unpack it. I want you to, to get in there. And so it's like a menu of options, right? And I think good relationships and good friendships can survive that. But it takes, to what you said, very strong communication and a lot of self-discovery to know what you need. And also to know if somebody tries to give you something, like I just sort of gave you a little Instagram meme thing where I was like, rejection's God's protection. And then I thought to myself, ugh, that would annoy me if somebody said that to me if I was feeling really rejected someday. So fair enough, right? Like sometimes you might not want a platitude or a quote or that moment. And so even if I was trying to help you as a friend and that didn't work, I also think if you want to build a real friendship, you have to be able to stand some conflict. You have to be able to live in discomfort a little bit, because that's how we grow.
Yeah, and definitely the communication and the listening, and just taking time to get to know someone in all those different phases. Not kind of like, oh, what's going on here? I want to stay away from that. Like, you're going to get your hands messy, and it'll be worth it. And
Have you experienced if anybody follows you online, which a lot of people do, we've got two of the friends that we see a lot in your stories with us here today, but have you found that as you share your friendships in the world with people, that people feel inspired, or have people felt jealous, or have people ask questions? Because I think what I love about what I see your relationship is that I get a little window into a relationship that sometimes feels like my own, right? Like the jokey parts or the friendship parts, but you clearly have a deep bond. But I'm just curious how, when you have a public looking at friendship as well, if that's caused any conflicts, or if you've had to figure out how to navigate some of that.
Yeah, well, we've definitely encountered jealousy. There's definitely been people who, how do I explain it, yet couldn't handle the fact that we became closer and closer and spent more time together, and also our careers and the way we were slightly more flexible enabled us to spend more time together than I was able to give to other people. So that again made people think, oh, that's the relationship she's trying to invest more in. And then I do get questions. I get questions about the friend that I had to ask to leave my life. I get asked sometimes on social media, where's so-and-so, where's so-and-so? And I'm like, that's so interesting. Someone's still asking that. And it's been quite a few months now. So definitely people are intrigued for sure. But then I also get, why do you never have friends on your social media? Or why is your family not on your social media? Or things like that. And it's like, well, it's not always my choice to just post people all the time. I think stories is easier because it goes away, but you know, my friend might not like that photo. I don't know. Sometimes I post like photos of Natalie and I know she's gonna get angry at me. So
I won't have it, but she's on quite private. So
exactly.
I was gonna ask that.
I don't need validation about any of our friendships.
Yes.
On social media, we know who
Right.
we are, what we stand.
And I don't feel like I have to do that either, like constantly, you know, prove that I've got friends.
And the reason I ask that is because I think sometimes we can look at friendships through the lens of social media and fill in all the blanks of what we think goes on in that friendship, right? And we might be like, oh, I don't have friends that do that, or I don't, you know, have friends, you know, and so that compare and despair can be really tough. And then you find yourself, I always find this too, like romantically, you know, might be like looking at somebody like how they're going out with their husband or their partner, or they're doing their vacation. And then I've had friends be like, all of a sudden I was mad at my husband and I don't know why, or I was mad at my boyfriend because I was looking at somebody else's life. So I think it's really important not to compare our friendships, our relationships to others. Whether you have a few tight friends, whether you have a lot of acquaintances that you like to be with, whatever your preferences are, I think that's okay. And I think what we said in the beginning, I think I'm thinking about throughout this workshop, which is that as we grow and as we expand, we will have friends that meet us at the places where we are. And that is normal. And that has loss and that has gain, because you get, you know, and that is relationships in general. And so I think just the more we can remember that and still take care of ourselves.
Yeah,
really
and really
important.
be appreciative. You know, I sent a text to someone that I had to ask to leave my life, but I still sent a text saying, you know, I wish you well and I'm grateful, I'm thankful for all those memories. I think it's always interesting how you can go from telling someone you love them and loving someone to hating someone. I think that's never a way to end a relationship. I think we should always find that forgiveness, because forgiveness is for ourselves as well. And so friendships can be tough because they can often end in a quite a toxic way. And I think you have to forgive, you have to learn how to heal, and you have to learn things from it, and bring that into your next relationships, not as baggage, but just as knowledge.
I know I'm sort of maybe now the queen of some cheesy sayings, but I really like the friends are there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? Because I think I do have some lifetime friends. I've definitely had some seasonal friends. The reason friends are tough ones sometimes.
I had
right?
a reason friend.
Yeah.
I was in a very awful relationship for 5.5 years with someone who was like manipulating me. I felt very, you know, alone, very trapped. I lived with him, you know, and I had this friend come in. From God. I don't know where she came from. It was so random. She just came in and she was a party animal. And she didn't work, she just partied. And she was like, right, Iskra, you're moving into my house in London and we're going out. And so I spent like 6 months just clubbing 3-4 nights a week. And it was just exactly what I needed at that point. Because I'd been trapped, I'd been manipulated, I'd been told I was a piece of meat and I was unworthy and I was not having fun, and I lost all my friends and only had his. But like, it was just awful, very toxic. So she came in and we just had a blast. And then it kind of just, that was it. It was like 6 months of and she just came in and she like this, and it's actually weird. Like, she could be from upstairs because she's not on social media. No one knows where she went.
I've had people like that in my
very
life, too.
interesting.
Yep.
No,
And
she
also,
disappeared.
we could be that for other people too, right? Sometimes we interact or engage with people and you don't know what your impact is. But I think what I'm so appreciative about where this conversation went to today, and we didn't know where it was going to go because this is somewhat of a newer conversation to go to. But I think what's so exciting is that this is all a part of the journey of how we learn to love ourselves and to know ourselves better, and then how we share that in those friendships.
And I think it's so interesting because even from the last workshop we did, we sensed how different it was talking about this, whereas talking about body confidence and some of the other topics we're going to talk about during these workshops, because this isn't something that is shared a lot. Like, I even feel like relationships between partners is talked about more, or we see it in Hollywood or movies, but friendships. So I think this is a really, like, I hope you take today and you take it home with you and it sits with you and you are more open to talk about these things.
Agreed.